like Tetris. I'm up next, about to show you who the best is. Hitting like a blow to the solar plexus. I make 'em forget you, call me CeeLo. Take my shot, you can't block it, like a free throw. Hitters get the heave-ho, make 'em eat crow. The other day his old man said, oh damn, she's cold. Bang this joint in the trunk of your four-door. Tell all your neighbors get the point like a scoreboard. They used to think I was insane, now they for sure. Watch me take over the game, I'm a warlord. I got my sights on the prize, yeah, I'm eyeing it. It's my time and I'm shining, so don't be trying it. Forget about the rule book, I'm defying it. It's a jungle out here and I'm a lioness. They used to talk smack, now they quiet. You don't say.
Cool. Awesome. That was some really, really cool music. Welcome everyone to the Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival live stream. Woo! My name is Vin, and I'm part of the screening committee with PAF. And today I'll be moderating filmmaker Q&A for the feature film Try Harder, as well as the accompanying short films H.A.G.S and Extra Credit. So we will be taking audience questions. So please, please, please make sure to type your questions into the comment section. So we'll start our Q&A session with the filmmakers of the short film H.A.G.S and Extra Credit. Could you both introduce yourselves and your film?
You want to go first, Angel?
Oh, sure. My name is Angel Yao. I made the stop motion Extra Credit, and it's based on my life and my childhood. It's just all the little moments that I felt really insecure and dumb in school. And that's pretty much what the short film is about.
Hi, I'm Sean. I made the short film H.A.G.S. I think everyone just saw it, so I don't think I have to describe it, but it sort of came about when I was doing research for a feature film that I was working on that kind of takes place in the era that H.A.G.S revisits. And it kind of just started as this kind of like pet project and then grew into something kind of bigger and then became a short film. And now we're here, so it's very exciting. Thank you for having us, by the way, Vin. And,
yeah, of course. Thank you both for being here and tuning in, virtually and stuff. I think it's super cool that we're able to have this space and be able to talk and discuss both your shorts. So just to start off, I'm just curious, how you both kind of conceived of the idea for your shorts, and how did you kind of settle on using animation to bring those to life? Angel, if you want to start.
Sure. I do stop motion because it's something I can do on my own. And usually I don't like working with other people, or I feel bad when I work with other people just because my process is so long and I'm also very indecisive. So I feel like I'm always going to be bothering someone. So with stop motion, I'm able to kind of do it on my own time. And I do work. I think each stop motion I do, it's 72 hours, no sleep. I just have to start and end it. I can't stop and go. So that's how I usually work. And I've always wanted, I think it was the vision of a school desk opening and closing. I think that's what started the film. And I've always wanted to kind of collect all these memories I've had about school, because I feel like I've always been so insecure about how well I did in school, because I feel like I was living a lie all the time with parents helping me or just feeling dumb. But being Asian, always looking up to being a smart person, the smartest person in school. So I just always wanted to kind of capture that.
For me, I think I said a little bit about how so basically I had been working on this feature that I was developing for a while. And I sort of was like, oh, I should go look through kind of my middle school yearbooks, because that's kind of when I was in 2008, I was in 8th grade. And just to kind of get a better sense of kind of what that era was like again, kind of how people dressed, how people talked. And I think flipping through the yearbook was such a kind of specific and weird and emotional and funny experience, because the yearbook itself I thought was so chaotically designed. It was so well designed, but it was also clearly designed by an 8th grader for 8th graders. And it was also like very existential in nature. It was like, you know, you kind of get to the end of the yearbook and the writing is something, you know, it's in the short a little bit, but it was sort of like, you know, like hold your friends close. This is like the last time you're this age, like life goes by fast. And I'm like, as a 5-year-old at the time, I was like, who is writing this? Like what 13-year-old is writing this for a 13-year-old? Like these are the thoughts that I'm having now as a young adult. And so I think it was just kind of a lot of my feelings about growing up and young adulthood, coupled with just kind of flipping through that yearbook and all the emotions that I felt. I sort of was just curious if my friends are feeling the same way. And so when it came to animation, I had always wanted to kind of do something animated. I kind of come from a live action background, and I spent a few years working on this team at Creative Lab, at a team called Google Creative Lab, and they do a lot of work kind of just using kind of screens and how to like tell, you know, human stories using like user interfaces and all that stuff. And it kind of taught me a lot about how to like look at things that aren't traditionally just like, you know, a camera and an actor or something, and kind of, or a subject, and kind of treat it as a canvas. And so I was always wanted to kind of do something that where it felt untraditional. Not that my short's untraditional, but untraditional for me, at least, kind of taking something that wasn't what I would kind of use as a canvas and try and turn it into something like cinematic and emotional. And this kind of just felt like the perfect way to do that. And it was also during the pandemic, and it kind of worked.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I kid you both not, like after I saw both shorts, I like went to go look for my like old yearbook from 8th grade, and a Scantron fell out, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like every time I think about Scantrons, especially for, you know, extra credit, I was like, oh my gosh, she pulled out the Scantron. So, you know, I was curious, like when you both made these shorts, what did you really hope for viewers to kind of take away from watching it?
Okay, you want me to go first?
I feel like we're on like a you go first, I'll follow.
Well, I need time to think.
You want me to go first, Angel?
If you already have the answer, go first.
I'll wing it. I'll try. I don't have the answer actually. What did I want people to think? I think, well, I don't know. I think the short for me, it was like so therapeutic. It became like at every step of the way, I was kind of like, I don't know what this is going to be. It was kind of a lot of things that I hadn't done before, which was animation. It was like kind of a radio driven short. Like I kind of wanted it to be a short film where like you could just listen to the film and you can kind of understand what it is, but like the visuals obviously add a lot to it. And I think, you know, every step of the way, like I just was kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was just kind of like, okay, there's like hours and hours of audio. I don't know what this is going to be. And the intention was also not like for this short to kind of explore like first generation Asian American children of immigrants, like through that lens. It was just, that's what kind of happened. Like, that's like every time I was just kind of like tinker with, I'd be like, oh, that's what I feel like this is. So it was a kind of a lot of exploratory things where I was just like, oh, I don't know what this is. And that wasn't the intention when we went in kind of making it. And I think what I realized was like, and I think it's what I kind of knew all along. It's kind of what I wanted the feature to be also, which was kind of like, oh, I feel like my experience growing up in the Bay Area in Fremont, where instead of kind of like, I think we talked about this earlier in the kind of chat before we went in a live stream, where it was like, instead of, I think, kind of growing up in a town where you're kind of like the one Asian kid in a sea of like people who kind of don't look like you or don't share your culture. Like, I think growing up in the Bay Area, you're actually kind of surrounded by a lot of Asian Americans. And I think that's also a very specific experience, especially growing up kind of like on the outskirts of Silicon Valley, and also on the outskirts of like places like San Francisco and Oakland, where you're kind of like so close to, you know, like in the Bay Area, you know, like the hyphy movement. There was just so much things like that was so specific to the Bay Area that I was like, oh, I feel like if we can capture a little bit of that, like that's special and like that's unique, and also that's familiar. And I think that's something I can actually talk about and kind of speak to with authority. And so that's kind of how it, I don't even know if I'm answering the question, but I think that's kind of what I want people to take away. I hope they laugh. I hope they, you know, feel something. And I hope they can kind of see a part of the Bay Area that I think hasn't really been seen in kind of like shows and television and movies. So
for me, I think what I wanted to accomplish is to have like 100 more friends. I think of people just being like, "Oh, Angel's cool. I like her." I think it's definitely every time I make something, it's definitely like I need compliments and to boost my self-esteem. I think with extra credit, like I've done multiple stop motions before, so I found a system and my voice to kind of make these types of films. So every time there's like a theme, and then for this one, it is about mostly about school, and the main themes throughout all my stop motions. It's just about how quiet I am, like how lonely I am, how I have like all these thoughts in my head still now, but it's just like something like all these inner monologue that I never would say out loud. I'm just like always second guessing myself. And I think making these is my time to just say them out loud and and kind of have my voice out there, even though I'm still voicing like little me. And maybe it's just like trying to give little me like justice. There's a lot of the stories that I put in there are like kind of sad and ironic maybe, but now showing that I'm a better person now. Like I would never imagine talking about this when I was little. And I do comedy, which is also like I like to make people laugh, and all of those are like kind of one-liners. So just like being so vulnerable and revealing myself, it's something I would never think I would do as a little kid. And I think the main goal is to have kids like, kind of speak their mind, to not feel as alone, and just to have more kind of Asian American point of view, even though sometimes like what I say aren't directly about being an Asian American, but it's, like it's who we are. So it is about being Asian American. So just having all these little true stories out there for people to see and help them. Hopefully they can share their stories as well is good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I appreciate both of you, sharing your stories and putting that out there for other people to see. And as much as I'd love to continue the conversation, we do need to move on to our next Q&A session. But could you just quickly let us know how we can support both of your works? Angel, if you want to go first.
Okay. If you go to angelyao.com, I usually have my calendar is up to date. I have shows there. And actually, in 2 weeks, November 16th, I'm holding an Asian American film thing in New York. And that's where I showcase Asian American films, short films, and work in progress to show that you could just put something out there and have a safe place to like share your work. So
Awesome.
Please come to that or join that.
Angel, I'm going to be in New York in 2 weeks, and that sounds like an awesome screening.
Okay.
I shall reach out separately and
let's
see if I can go. But I'm on the internet. You can find me on Instagram at Sean S. Wang or SeanWangFilm.com. If you are chiming into the live stream now and you haven't seen the shorts, H.A.G.S was picked up by the New York Times Op Docs, and you can find it on the New York Times and on Vimeo. And it's screening at a few festivals. If you're in San Francisco, as the Try Harder team, maybe someone chiming in will be. It's screening at the Castro Theater tomorrow. And if anyone's there, you should swing by. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Cool. I will just give it a couple seconds. Get some folks on. All right, now I'd like to welcome our live stream to our next filmmakers, subject, director, and new impact associate with Try Harder. Folks want to like introduce themselves really quick?
Yeah, hi. Hello, Philly. I'm Debbie. I'm the director producer, and I'm sorry I'm doing this from my car, but I was dropping my kids, or picking up my kids from school, and got into a major traffic jam, such as the COVID virtual way of doing things. But I'm so happy to introduce our subject, Ian Wang, and Lynn, our impact producer. And I'll let them introduce themselves too.
Hey, Philly. I'm Ian. As Debbie said, I'm a subject, so I had the easiest part of the film of just being myself. I hope you guys really enjoyed the film, and we're happy to, I guess, share a little bit more about the film.
Hi, everyone. I'm Un, and I'm signing in from the Philly Burbs out in Malvern. And I'm so excited to join the team as the impact producer and put this incredible film to work.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Glad we can again share this space with each other across multiple time zones. That's super cool. So just to kind of get started, Debbie, I'm curious, what was kind of the origin story for Try Harder, and where did this idea come from to like document these high schoolers?
Well, I started out making a film called My Tiger Mom. I'm a mom. My daughter was entering pre-K and trying to get into a kindergarten in San Francisco. I've met parents that were obsessing about college already. So that's actually how it started. And Lowell High School was just going to be one chapter in the story. But when we met the students like Ian and Alvin and Sophia and Rachel and the entire school, really, we fell in love with the kids and their story. And the kids are all grown up now. So, yeah, as a parent who's kind of looking ahead at what the college application process is like, I had heard so many horror stories, but realized that the students who are at the center of that kind of college admissions horror frenzy, their story is very rarely centered. So that's what we tried to do in this film.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think it's such a great story, and not one that's like often told. And I think it's something that's really important for a lot of folks to see. And so, I think documentaries always seem like kismet to me. And like, I was just curious, like, how did you end up choosing, Rachel, Sophia, Shay, Alvin, and Ian to be this, like, the focus of the film?
Yeah, it's always so interesting to talk about this, especially when Ian is sitting right there. But he's hard to resist. I mean, he's so funny. When we met him, everything that came out of his mouth off and on camera was so funny. And probably of all of the kids, I usually say that Rachel is the one whose high school experience was most like mine, because I actually did not grow up in San Francisco. I grew up in Heartland, going to school where I was like one of the only Asian Americans. And so I experienced the same types of sort of things that she went through. But it, of course, with Ian, we probably shared so much in common, because I'm like also multi-generational Asian American. My family's been here for over 5 generations. And it was really just that whole thing about high school, where being Asian American is the norm, was such an interesting thing to me. So this is a very long-winded way of saying that, we met so many students. Everyone had an amazing story. Each one was a little bit different. We met Alvin the very first day that we were at Lowell, and he knew we wanted to tell his story. And it's different, we met different people along the way. But, I think all of the 5 that we profiled were all, going for really difficult schools, and all had very different things that they were up against. And that was sort of what we wanted to show in a story.
Yeah, and I think the documentary definitely captures that. So for Ian, what was it like to have this part of your life filmed? Did you find it like difficult at all to share your feelings in those moments, or?
Yeah, so I guess like I guess like I had the easiest part of the film in that I was able to just be myself, and at first it was weird to have like Debbie and Lou, the like another producer on the film follow me around. But after a while, it just became kind of natural because like I just told them what I was thinking. I'm a very stream of conscious type responder, I guess. But yeah, I guess looking back, I just see how fortunate I was, and I thank my parents for taking that hands-off approach because it ultimately allowed me to do what I wanted to do, and I thank them so much for that because I realized that not everyone had that same privilege. So I don't know. I look back and I'm incredibly grateful that I had all the support that I did, like with my friend groups and with my parents and my teachers, because it's really eye-opening and it's something that you don't realize at the time. But yeah, nothing but gratitude for everyone that's helped me along the way.
Awesome. And so, Debbie, the documentary focuses a lot on that Asian American student identity, and with 3 out of the 5 subjects being Asian American. Could you talk a little bit about your choice to pick Rachel and Shay's storyline to also be included in the film? Oh, Debbie, I think you've muted still. I think the reception is a little bit spotty.
Okay,
Oh,
is that
there you are.
better?
Yeah,
I'm so
better.
sorry about these technical difficulties. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, so like I told you, it was really fascinating to me to be in a place where the majority student body is Asian American. And sorry, are you having technical problems still? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, Lowell High School has been a majority Asian American high school for many decades, and everything, I think a lot of people in San Francisco associate it with a very Asian American school. And for me, it was this place where
So I think Debbie is frozen again. It must be pretty cold in California. Totally fine. So and I'm actually curious. We'll wait for Debbie to come back, but I'm just kind of curious what kind of like things that you're interested in doing, with as being an impact producer, with Try Harder.
Yeah. We just started this conversation, but I'm so both excited about the film and the ways in which it tells so many stories, like both of my family, myself, and my community. And it really sort of dovetails beautifully with a lot of the uh, activism work I've been doing in the community here in my own school district, where my children go to school. Um, you know, One thing is I just want to bring it to an audience because, we were talking earlier before we went live, and it's it's a really sort of extraordinary thing to see your own story reflected in, for example, Ian's story or Alvin's story, their parents' stories. Um, One thing that we would love to do is to sort of reframe the way that not just our own community, but certainly our community looks at higher ed, and to really look at it from a wellness point of view and a mental health point of view, because that's often very much missing from um, the conversation, right? I had a very similar experience to Debbie in the sense that, like, I really envied the kids that went to Lowell because I had a very similar experience to Debbie, where I was one of very few at a large, affluent suburban school. And my partner and I specifically sought out our suburban school district because um, it had a large BIPOC population, specifically Asian American. But I think what's sort of hard about the story is watching these kids who are peers and have so much in common also be so toxically competitive with one another, and what that does to, I think, friendships and really your well-being, right? That you are so much more than your grades and your academic achievement, and that, you know, we look at success potentially in a different way, right? I mean, I grew up very much under this, like, my parents were tiger parents because they were first generation Asian Americans in this country. I'm a 1.5 generation, and, you know, our role was to fulfill the American dream, to make our parents' sacrifice worth what it was. And you know, I want to see a future where this next generation can really sort of live out their own dreams, whatever that may be, and to have a broader sense of what's possible for them, both you know, academically, certainly, but as human beings. I think another really important component of this is like stressing the importance of learning our history, right? Like integrating the hard work that generations before us did in the higher ed space around ethnic studies, that is incorporated into K through 12. It's not okay for my children to go to a school where, you know, 25% of their peers are Asian American, and then there's like 13 pages out of a 2,000 page book in their AP history class that addresses both the struggles and the achievements, right, of our people. So that's certainly a big component of it as well. And I'm excited to build this, and with the team, but also, you know, really sort of echoing and paralleling and what Debbie was able to do with the film, where you really are centering the student experience, because that's certainly missing in this national conversation around, like, say, DEI and what our children should or shouldn't be doing and learning in the classroom, right? Ultimately, it affects them. They're the ones that are most affected. And I think that they've got a lot to say. And in many ways, they're like 5 steps ahead of us. So.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. You know, I think it's interesting, like, you know, there was like the Third World Liberation Front that started with like collegiate level schools. And now there's like a lot of discussion about including, you know, ethnic studies at the high school or K through 12 level. So really appreciative of your work and doing that. And I think Try Harder is going to be a great catalyst to sparking those conversations and having those, you know, double looks or double checks about what education looks like at the K through 12 level. Debbie, welcome back.
Thank
so
you.
Good.
And I just wanted to add that we're really excited that we have on here, because, you know, especially the connection, and it's just.
All right, it must be really cold in California. So to pivot, you know, Ian, I'm curious, you know, how was college life for you, you know, post the whole documentary, and like, what are you up to now?
Yeah, so I guess post documentary college life was pretty amazing. Like academics definitely a lot easier than Lowell High School, which is actually crazy to say. Like, how is a high school easier than college? Like, what is going on? But yeah, college is a lot easier, a lot more autonomy, like a lot more just me doing me stuff, and really enjoyable. I'm really fortunate that I got the scholarship that I did from Emory, because it ultimately allowed me to like be a teacher like right now. And I'm teaching at a Title I school in Atlanta right now, just like a few minutes south of the airport. And yeah, trying to have these kids, trying to have these kids like underdogs, like win really tough games, like, which is like the game of getting into college and everything like that, and getting enough scholarship money to make it affordable. And also just making sure that they have the skills necessary to succeed in college, because like that's always a big thing. So yeah, I really love my job now. I teach economics, AP macroeconomics, and U.S. history at my school. So tough course load, but I'm definitely not like a really tough teacher. I'm known as like the young dude that's like really nice. That's that gives everyone a PB&J sandwich. So yeah, like I get a lot of students that aren't even my students in my classroom sometimes, just like chilling, um, sitting in my classroom for financial literacy stuff, and it's just a great environment. I really wish I had more desks in my room because people have to sit on milk crates and stuff, and that's I guess that's the beauty of a Title I school.
Gosh, Ian, I don't want to sound like a mom, but I'm so proud of you. It's amazing.
Yeah, well,
Ian
yeah,
is
like
amazing.
you guys are too kind.
Yeah, that's super cool. Do you think that like your decision to go into teaching was from like your teachers, or like has anything to do with like the documentary at all?
Yeah, so like I guess looking back at my high school career and just like my schooling career in general, like I could I could tell you like all the impact that my teachers have had on me, just like telling me to do certain things, like telling me to study for the SAT as a junior, or telling me to read The Economist because I was interested in that type of stuff. Like shout out Mr. Shapiro. Yeah, like Mr. Shapiro. What a lot of people don't know is that he also taught an AP seminar class, which is like a writing intensive, research intensive course. So he taught physics and a very writing intensive course, and I took that writing intensive course. And in that course, like he got me reading a lot of The Economist, and a lot of the New Yorkers. So that really helped me out on the SAT, and it really helped me out in life. Really helped me out during my college interviews and everything like that. So yeah, like I just wanted to be that Mr. Shapiro for someone else because I think there's so many. I think there's such a great opportunity for me to help so many other kids along. Because yeah, college. Like I guess if we learned anything during the movie, we learned that college application season is tough, and a lot of people just aren't ready for that because they don't have someone that's been through it recently. And me being the youngest teacher at my school, and me having been mistaken for a student like a million times by now, I could be that guy, and I think it's just so important because college was amazing for me, and I want other kids to get there as well.
Yeah, and so like jumping off of that, like what would be, I guess, like the biggest advice you would give to students as they're getting ready to apply for college?
Oh my gosh, I guess so much. Like a lot of what you do in high school, it's all eventually gonna have to translate towards something, and basically the college application process starts the second you're born, basically. Tough to say. Like I think that's what a tiger mom would say, but in a very real aspect, it is. You know, you're finding your interest, and you're pursuing your interest. You're finding out what you're interested in, but also just like also doing like the other things that you just have to do that you don't really want to do, like taking the SAT as a junior, and not taking it as a senior, because if you take it as a senior, it's a little bit too late. But at the end of the day, just follow your interest, follow what makes you happy. You don't have to go to college if you don't want to. There are other careers out there. Um, that pay pretty well and that are pretty enjoyable. So just like find that intersection where like your interest meets an opportunity, and then you have a decent career. I think as long as it's not like SoundCloud rapping, like almost any career is viable. So that's what I tell my students.
Awesome. Okay, and so I'm going to pose this question to all three of you. So as this documentary becomes more accessible for people to see, what are the big things that you hope that parents and students learn from it? And Debbie, if you want to start. That was probably a poor choice on my side. And if you want to start.
Yeah, I'm actually, I'm going to paraphrase Debbie actually from our conversation. We had a larger conversation about what our impact goals are, and one thing that she said that really resonated with me on a lot of levels is that if the only thing we're able to accomplish through our impact campaign is to facilitate more honest, real conversation between parents and their kids around these larger issues related to college admissions, then we'll have achieved something pretty amazing. And I think that's where a lot of the lasting impact is, right? I mean, I'm thinking about my own parents, and, in my school district, there's a very, very wide range of Asian Americans in our community, right? There's certainly parents like me who grew up here, went through the school system, and have our own children. We have a lot of parents who are first generation and predominantly from China or India, who came as like grad students or as professionals, and aren't familiar with the school system and are sort of really experiencing it through their children for the first time. And, you know, reflecting on my own experience, there was so much that my parents didn't know about what it was like for me growing up in the American school system, um, w- under a system of white supremacy, and the ways in which that is reflected in the education system and in many of the interactions that you have with peers or teachers or just the institution. You know, not to downplay the racism that they experience in their own lives, right? That's real, and that's big, and comes with a lot of its own challenges. But um, you know, there's a gap there, and I would love to see this film, and I know Debbie would love to see this film be a bridge to facilitate those conversations, right? I think it's truly like a sort of intra community, intra family um, dialogue, and that's where a lot of the work is, right? And for me, a key part of this is really working in solidarity with other communities of color, other marginalized communities, because at the end of the day, what is driving a lot of this is systemic inequality. And a lot of the challenges that we face around this, they're always going to be there until we dismantle that system, right? It's just it's built in, and we can certainly play the admissions game, and we can uh, try and work these interventions to make it more fair and equitable. But ultimately, it's about the system, and changing that system. And I think that requires coalition.
Definitely amen to the whole systems, the need for systems change, because I see it every day. Like we need multiple systems to be changed to get into that virtuous cycle where everyone, I guess, loves each other. Because I don't know, like we're better if we love each other. But I guess like for the advice that I'd give, I guess building off the idea of like pursuing your interests, just knowing that you're never stuck doing one thing and that you can always pivot. Because like I guess what a lot of people don't know or may not know from the film is that I was in the same AP bio class as Alvin and Sophia, and we took it as sophomores, so we took it a little bit earlier than everyone else did. And basically, what like I was only in the course because I felt that I had to like go get all the APs and everything like that, and like become like a doctor and stuff like that. But so the class was graded on a rank scale, and I had barely gotten an A, and I was behind like the likes of Alvin and Sophia. So I realized that I only loved science and a lot of hard sciences because I did well in them, and when I stopped doing well in them, I didn't really love it as much. So then I turned over to the social sciences, where human behavior does not make any sense, and that interested me a lot more. So yeah, I guess just like feel free to pivot, like because you're never stuck doing one thing. Life is long. I keep getting told that, but yeah. Sorry, Debbie's texting me, and she won't be able to get back on. But yeah.
Well, I mean, Ian, to sort of piggyback on what you were saying, one other thing that Debbie and I discussed was building in like a mentorship program, right? And really sort of incorporating young folks into that, right? Like people like you that went through the Lowell experience, went through this sort of grueling admissions process, have had your collegiate experience, and now are sort of out in the world and have this perspective that you have, right? That like, I remember that pressure where it's like, oh my God, if I don't have this figured out by, November of my senior year, then that's like my whole future flushed down the toilet. And it's you know, it's hard to remove yourself from that echo chamber if there aren't people there to sort of provide some perspective, some life perspective. So
yeah,
that's definitely part of
sure.
the work too.
Yeah. So, you know, as we're, you know, kind of closing out, Ian, I don't know if you want to talk about if there's any way to better support Try Harder and like the things that you're all doing with the impact.
Absolutely. So yeah, our impact campaign is up on tryharderfilm.com. Like check it out for to host a screening maybe, or just to learn more about the film and the work that we're doing to raise awareness for a lot of things in mental health and college admissions, and I guess like the idea of systems change. I wanted to tell everyone about Doc NYC. We're premiering there on the 13th, or not premiering. We're screening there on the 13th, and I'll be there. So excited to be in New York. And we'll also be opening in movie theaters in New York on December 3rd. So like look out for that. It's going to be really exciting. And yeah, like thank you so much for hosting us. Like this has been really amazing. It's great to meet all of you guys and see all of you guys virtually now, but hopefully in person someday. You know.
Awesome, cool. Thank you both for being here. Tell Debbie we said thanks for coming too. So, you know, the Philadelphia Asian American Film Festival is hybrid this year with more than 100 films available through streaming online, and we actually have 6 in-person events held at the Asian Arts Initiative in Philly. You can find out more about this year's festival program and purchase tickets at path.org. And speaking of programming, don't forget to attend the Race and Education Access panel scheduled for tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time to further explore narratives shown in the film. And I think everyone could get some extra credit if we all try harder to share the amazing work you all heard tonight with your friends, family, old classmates, and H.A.G.S. Have a great Saturday and Sunday. Thanks for coming, everyone.